What's up guys, this is ScherBR talking, welcome back to my channel. On today's video, I will be talking about the Romancing Festival Julian banner in my preview. I want to go right to Reddit in this post by Hands4A3, as always, thank you so much. I prefer to use this because we can see how much the banner changed when compared to JP. And Julian was buffed, they gave him now 115% STR, endurance, and wheel. Status that he likes, anything else is just there. He does have very low agility, but he is a revenge counter that wants to be super slow before he can attack. Well, he gets 1 BP when he attacks, and can attack multiple times. When he receives a direct attack, this is a new global exclusive buff. He will grant himself a defense boost that decreases damage taken by 25% for 2 turns against stack, and will then grant all enemies this slash and pierce defense down effect. It will decrease their defenses by 10% just for that turn. And since this is stack, or the skills that he uses that have both elements, can be pretty interesting. Then, if he receives an indirect attack, this is his main gameplay. He'll get this attack boost that increases damage potential by 20%, lasts for 2 turns, and then he will get a stack of revenge time. After he attacks, he will activate Flash Triple Thrust. Flash Triple Thrust is a double S power attack with slash and pierce, pretty close to triple S power. And now there's no limit. He will have to use this in the same turn, I guess, because it says for 1 turn. So you want to use him on the center of a Rising King or Rising Phoenix EX formation. And he will be attacking after the enemy, meaning that if the enemy uses indirect attacks, he's going to get 1 stack of those revenge time. And as soon as he attacks, those stacks will be followed up as chase. Pretty nice because he can get stronger and decrease the defenses of the enemy. Damage will be nice. You then have this other passive, 37% chance to take an ally place when it's hit. Even on AoE it can happen. In that case, if it's an AoE, only 4 characters will be hit. He protects 1. And he reduces damage taken when he's protecting. When he is also attacked, he'll be buffing Endurance, Will, and Charisma by 5% for all allies. This is really not game changing. Serious buffs by 15%. 5% is what Shao gives, but Shao gives individually. So if it's an AoE, everyone gets, but if it's single target, well, just that character gets. In this case, Julian will trigger for everyone if he is hit. Then he has 50% decrease in damage at all times. Now, skill 1 is single target attack that will then apply slash and pierce defense down to the enemy. It's a deep power attack for 1 VP, so it's something to use when you don't have enough VP. You may have lots of VP if you are chasing many times, but you may not if the enemy doesn't attack as often. The second skill uses 4 VP, can only use it once in battle, and gives him an evasive stance, but that's strange because it's not a fast skill, so I don't know if it will help so much. It's pretty slow. But it also gives him a taunt every turn, that stacks for 4 turns, and also an endurance and will buff by 20%, ailment resistance buff, and also a very minimal HP healing, that would be around 300. So, plenty of interesting effects to use in his best style, that is still the past one. You can give those inheritance to the main Julian if you want, and he becomes even better, because he already taunts passively, and then he gets another taunt, and he gets more buffs. So, this one is good. But, more into that later. Then the third skill is 9 VP cost. It has delay, so that it guarantees that he still attacks after the enemy, even if it's slow. It will recover 3 VP, so effectively you are only spending 6. You get at least 4 per turn because you are attacking anyway. So if the enemy attacks you 2 times, you can already keep this cycle forever. But if you can't, just use skill 1. And also gives himself a damage block for 1 time, no turn limit. So you will see that applied on the next turn so that he can survive better. Not like survival is really a problem for him, but you can see that this guy will work because of that revenge attack that is not a counter per se, but it kind of works like, because if you are in a fight where the boss behaves like a mage, all spells are indirect. You can counter by use of this Julian. You get all those revenge stacks, and then Julian attacks, and it feels like you are countering. Not exactly, and depends on enemy behavior. If you are in a fight like some Spiral Challenge that have a boss and many minions, he may attack you so many times that Julian can have like 10 chases in his end of turn. That's a lot. So damage will be nice. But the thing is, many boss challenges have only one enemy. They will be attacking you between 3 to 4 to 5, 6 times. If it's higher than 3, I can see Julian having a reason to exist. If it's lower than 3, don't bring Julian. It's not good enough. But in some situations, he's going to shine. But he does not replace the old Julian. The old Julian is still better. And if you want the real counter, you have to summon for Other. He works totally different and at least has a very interesting inheritance for the past one. I believe that this guy deserves a 3.5 out of 5 because he's very niche. Nice to have, but not really all that important. I'm not entirely sure about his grading yet, so give me feedback in the comment section. Moving on to Thomas. They buffed Thomas' endurance and will. They are above 90s, and we have 120% intelligence, but kind of very bad agility in my opinion for a character that works like he does. Well, he has a 30% damage increase and then another 30 via Spear Finesse for 60%. Then when he uses spells, he gets another 30 for a total of 90%. He then has 1 damage block for 1 time on turn. And if everyone is alive, he then gets another attack damage increase by 15%, and that is for everyone. So he reaches 105% damage increase, and he also has Scrum Guard, so decreases damage taken by 20% as long as everyone is alive. When he attacks, he gets 1 BP, and also grants defense down to the target. That decreases their defenses by 10%, lasts for 2 turns, can stack. And if he attacks with any skill or spell, he would change with Dual Lance as power and pierce and blunt damage. Not really special, okay, but has a 50% chance to activate Gravity Rush. That is an attack that has 3 to 5 hits of weak damage, but 3 hits is already triple S power. If you get more than that, it's a lot of damage. We do have a good amount of damage increase with Thomas. Then 30% damage reduction at all times besides the Scrum Guard. Skill 1 is 2BP and it has a chance to debuff the enemy intelligence by 15% and stun. Well, it's a spell, all of his attacks are spell based. We don't have a triple S Earth Spear in the game, so you have to use a double S one. It's not really that great, but if you really need to debuff intelligence and he's in a fight where you can use it. The second one is a very interesting skill, and it's his main gameplay. It's fast, can only be used once, but it grants Self this passive trigger, where every turn he will grant all allies plus 2 BP when being attacked by Blunt. Well, Candy on the best turn can recover 6 from any type of damage that is based on skill, because he gets 3 from the skill and 3 from Overdrive. Aspergal can get as much as 6 if she changes with her Psychic Hunt from any spell. Blunt is a little more restricted than his other units, but, well, many times a boss can attack 3, 4, 5 times, and you can get a lot of VP. When it works, it's gonna be amazing, but it's a little restricted. In the Arsenal fight, you're gonna get lots of VP, for example. Probably made for that. And he also gets 1 damage block every turn, so he will have 2 damage blocks. So, as you can see, he does not take much damage. And then the third one is a spell with blunt and pierce damage again, that is also fast, and grants all allies guard up medium, decreasing damage taken by 25%, but also a blunt and a pierce defense up, this time by 35%, only for that turn. If the enemy has a skill that is both blunt and pierce, you stack those 2 effects to reduce damage taken by a lot, but this is just 1 turn. So he wants to use skill 2 to get all the effects, and then he uses skill 3 to try to decrease damage taken to the party. But he himself could have done better damage, but look, he would chase at least once, and sometimes chase more, because he already has Room Guard and can give these other effects if he can use it every turn. Well, he is a very defensive unit. A little hard to use, because if he does not get enough BP, he just cannot keep running this skill. Look, 10 BP, he only has 4 BP guaranteed, and sometimes 5 if he chases. So, a turn where you don't have this, it's terrible. And also, it's blunt defense up and pierce defense up. It's very specific, right? So, another good unit to use if you know how to, but not really essential, not really that great. And I'm thinking about giving him a 3 out of 5. Then we have Sarah, and they buffed her will. She has 115% dexterity and 102% agility. Very low endurance, so she's a little fragile. We have 30% decrease in damage at all times, and she has 30% damage potential, and then another 30 for 60 at least. Then she gets heat up of 20%, up to 5 times per battle, so she reaches as much as 160% by herself. And then by the end of turn, she recovers 2 BP, so she is a 5 BP per turn. Starting the fight with 13 to help. And now on turn begins, if she is on an energy charged stance, she will grant many different effects. Guarantee guard up, decreasing damage taken by 50%. A guarantee self morale up, so just to herself, that will increase damage by 50%. She also has a 50% chance to recover BP by 6. And 50% chance to recover HP of all allies by around 1.4 thousand. But this is only if she's under this energy charged stance. But how do you get into that? Using skill number 3, 13 BP, 4S power, Piercing Sun. Sun is exclusive to global. Before she attacks, she grants this attack boost of 30% damage increase for 2 turns, and then a defense boost, decreasing damage taken by 25% for 2 turns. All of these effects are stackable. Then she attacks. So the attack will actually do a lot of damage, and she will then enter this energy charged stance. Countdown is 1, meaning that by the end of a turn, she already charged. In the next turn, she will attack with an attack that has B power and will hit between 2 to 4 times random targets. And each hit has increased damage by 15% for all allies on each attack. So, she doesn't have any chase. She just has this cycle of attacking and then building up attack and defense boost. And when she's on this energy charged stance, is that she can get the extra BP. And she can get this extra healing. And she will be on this charged stance every 2 turns. Meaning that if you take the average value, she'll be healing everyone. Actually, once every 4 turns on average. Because you have energy charged stance every even turn. And on 2 even turns, you could consider the average of healing at least once. And that's how she gets the extra 6 BP too. You have an average of 3 BP every 2 turns. But she starts the fight with 13, okay? She uses it and she's a 5 BP per turn character, meaning that you need the extra 3 to use this skill again. So the average allows you to have the remaining BP you need. But you may also not trigger the effect, and she may just have to use skill number 1, where you have to bring her with other people in the party that gives BP. She also has a second skill that is a single target recovery skill that can be used 5 times per battle, that recovers, revives, and gives an attack boost of 15% attack increase for 2 turns. Well, we don't use single target recovery skills all that much, and she will be sometimes in a charged stance, so this is actually useless most of the time. Even skill 1 is not something you should be using unless you don't have anything else to do. This character works because of that guard up. You can see that she decreases damage taken by 50%, and this value will keep running if you manage to use skill number 3 all the time. And decreasing damage taken by 50% is nice and all. I believe that it can be useful, but her damage is not that great. She does not have any chains attack in an era where 90% of the characters have. So if you already have someone like Ziling or even Pamela for Remembrance, you are pretty set. I don't think she will be used too much on hard challenges. It's not that she doesn't work, it's more that we have other options that are a little more safe to use. Also, if you are in a charged stance, some stuff have problems as well. Like, if you get stunned, you lose the charge. And you cannot get a protection from Impress Shield, if I'm not mistaken. So, it's okay, but nothing spectacular. I'll be giving her a 3.5 out of 5. Then we have Ellen. Ellen is pretty interesting, a character that is hard to use, but becomes super strong if you know how to. You have 120% STR, 71% endurance, and 90% will. She's a little fragile versus physical, but good enough for magical. Very high agility with 102% and intelligence being on the 90s. She can be a debuffer, but this value is actually pretty low and she may actually miss debuffs actions. But she can also debuff with guarantee. You get there. She has 40% damage increase via the first and the last one. She then has 40% damage reduction when resisting and 37% chance to evade resisted attacks. Starts the fight with 13 BP. And she then grants herself this Secret of Slashing. Every time that she lands an attack, she debuffs this enemy, STR, endurance, and intelligence by 5%. This is big and we'll be discussing in a few. On turn begins, she has then a 37% chance to start with 3 different passives that trigger a chase. One grants her Morning Glory, a 4S power attack with just slash. It lasts for 2 turns, meaning that she will chase on this turn and the next. The other one, it has Deadly Spin. That is a 4S attack with slash and blunt for this turn and the next one. And you also have a third chance to chase with the Reverse Delta for 2 turns as well, slash and blunt. And this is a triple S power attack with attack boost. So, on the average levels, you should be triggering at least 1. And from turn 2 onwards, you will have the average level of 2 chase attacks. And all of them have at least triple S power. And all chase attacks will also debuff SDR, endurance, and intelligence by 5%. But she is extremely RNG reliant, and unlike Paulus that allows everyone to be a debuffer, she needs speed, does have very good speed, and she needs to attack before the enemy, and it's all about herself. Also, when she attacks, she recovers her HP by very small and 1 BP, so she will usually get at least 6 BP on average from turn 2 onwards. And she also gets his attack boost that increases damage potential by 10% for 2 turns, and is also stackable and buffs STR by 5% every time that she attacks. So overall, on average, a 15% STR buff if you get 2 chases, 30% attack boost, so that on the second turn you can reach 40, 50, 60 average values, guys, and 6 BP, and you recover around 600 at least. But a good RNG, you can get as much as 6 follow-ups per turn. But you should not be considering that. It's just that very epic moment where you can use Ellen to kill an enemy that should be killed in 10 turns, and she attacked it many times. So, now about her skills. The third one is 13 BP cost. That's a lot. And before attacking, she grants herself this another stack of and before attacking, she grants herself another stack of Secret of Slashing. Wait, what? Yes. When she attacks now, instead of just debuffing 5% once, she would debuff it twice, doubling the effect. Okay, I told you that she has an average of 2 chases. So, 1 hit, 2 chases means she'll be debuffing 30% SDR, endurance, and intelligence on the averages. Let's say that you manage to use the skill tree again on the second turn. It's pretty unlikely unless you are using someone like Hardy, or Candy on perfect situations, or Asper, or Sheree, and even Sheree, you know, being off, she would then triple the effects. So instead of debuffing at least 30, you'll be debuffing at least 45%. But if you have a very good turn where she changes like 4 times, well, you debuff the enemy to 0 even. Paulus can do that as well. Paulus allows you to do that because he allows everyone to debuff, and you can debuff so much that you can reach 0. Ellen can do that, but she's realizing much more RNG than Paulus. And she has to go first the enemy unless, and she still has to have very good speed to attack before the enemy. So the real case scenario is start with the skill tree, then you probably have to use skill 1, that is single target attack with C power that can debuff the enemy STR by 15%, and when all it down, decreasing damage taken by 15%. And then you go back to skill 3, so that you will have a cycle of 3 stacks at most. And 3 stacks at most is still, like I said, 45% debuff to STR, endurance, and intelligence on average values, or higher or lower depending on number of chases. And it's still nice to use. I believe she will still need some help with BP generation because, like I said, her average is still 6. The skill itself costs 13. So to use her, you really need to bring someone like RG or that gives BP generation. And the second skill is a AoE slash attack that has a chance to debuff intelligence by 20%. It's a very nice skill if you consider that it's just 5, but her intelligence is not that high. I prefer to rely on the guaranteed debuffs, like I said, but if you are using her in a squad that can be buffed, like a fight where the enemy allows you to buff, quick network, she'll be buffing a lot and you can get even higher buffs via passive, and she'll land these. So instead of just debuffing 45% and max, you can reach 65 at average levels. Of course, we're talking about RNG. She may not even debuff much if you have a bad turn that can lead to your defeat. Paulus still debuffs well, and he guarantees the debuffs with other people. So depending on the number of their chases, you can guarantee that you will be safe. Ellen may fail and you may die, but he's also an X user and we need more X users for remembrance. If you are needing off damage, she's even better than damage. She's a debuffer and can help you a lot. If you have the past version of Ellen, she doesn't really combo well with this one, but if you don't have VP, you can use her charge stance to get Yo-Yo Plus, because Yo-Yo Plus will then debuff as well, but in that case you have to have another debuffer, because if you are charging, what are you doing? You are not debuffing, right? You can also use Saturn Blade from another version of Ellen that can give her more BP, and eventually she'll have much better BP generation. You have those versions, she's a compliment. And I believe she deserves a 4 out of 5 in the tier list. Well, this banner is just okay. I like that we have 4 characters here, so if you like them, do some pulls, but I don't think anyone here should be pitiable. Julian is nice and all, but his gameplay is very restricted. In situations where you use the original Julian, you will really make it a little... In situations where the other Julian works, he really makes an impact. This Julian is more about a damage dealer than anything, because he wants indirect attacks, so many indirect attacks are AoE. Not all of them will make all of that difference. And Thomas is okay, but very limited to the enemies using blunt attacks. Sarah is nice, but her damage is lacking a little, and even though she does have guard up, her cycles are not perfect. And by the end, Ellen is an amazing unit, but does require the squad to be built around her, and even then, RNG may fail. So, I still believe that the first banner is better. I gave it a gold award. This one will receive a silver award only, and it's very skippable in my opinion. Summon for Katarina, get her, and even drop and wait for other units. But that's my first impressions. What are yours? Please say here on the comment sections if you agree with me. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't, and I see you soon in the next video or live stream. Goodbye.